Welcome back to Movie Recap. Today I'm gonna show you a 2016 American biblical drama film called Risen. Spoilers ahead. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. The movie begins in the Judean desert, AD 33. Clavius slowly wanders the barren desert, and stumbles upon a small house. The house owner feeds him food and notices the tribune ring he wears. There, Clavius recounts his life to the house owner. For 30 years, the Roman Empire rules over Judea. Prefect Pilate has Clavius as his tribune, responsible for keeping the city order. Jews reside Judea, who believe in one God, Yahweh, and the arrival of the mystical Messiah. Judea is under the religious leadership of Sanhedrin. An increasing number of zealots aim to challenge the Roman Empire that Barabbas led. Clavius and his men, however, capture Barabbas. Barabbas tells him that Rome will soon be nothing once the Messiah arrives, yet Clavius is a believer of Roman polytheism, such as the god of war, Mars, so he slays him mercilessly. After dealing with the zealots, Clavius returns to the city and meets Pilates. Pilates shares about the occurred Passover, where people shout for the ascetic Nazarene's blood. This Nazarene is named Yahshua, who claims to be the Messiah, triggering the Sanhedrin to put him down because it's blasphemy. So, Pilates abides with the Sanhedrin's order to crucify Yahshua to keep the peace and order in the city because Caesar is soon to come. Pilates tasks Clavius to finish Yahshua's life immediately, but before he goes, Pilates introduces Lucius to Clavius as his new aide. So, Clavius and Lucius leave the city, yet Lucius notices the gloomy sky when the walls and ground suddenly tremble. The earthquake soon stops, and the two arrive at the crucifixion site, where mobs shout cries, mourning for Yahshua on the cross. The centurion assigned to the site senses something different from King Yahshua, who spoke "It's finished" just before the tremor. When Clavius finally orders to kill them all, the centurion can't help to tear up, for he believes that Yahshua is innocent. Two guards smash the knees of the other two crucified criminals on the cross, while a pilum is to be stabbed on Yahshua's underribs. The centurion sighs in disbelief and suppresses his tears, but Clavius advises him to toughen up, and orders him to message Pilates that the work's done. Among the mob is Yahshua's mother, bellowing a cry as she watches her son die. After the swift kill, the two guards remove the bodies off the cross, and dump them on the corpse pile behind the site. When Yahshua's body is turned, Joshua of Arimathea arrives with a letter containing Pilate's approval for Joshua to bury Yahshua's body in their family tomb. When Clavius agrees to the letter, Joshua runs to Mary and comforts her. On the other hand, Clavius studies Yahshua's dead face while Joshua's men carefully retrieve Yahshua's body. At night, Clavius bathes himself with Pilates in a pool. Pilates finds Yahshua's case strange because it's rare for a person to offer himself to death as a sacrifice. Clavius shares that he assisted in burying Yahshua in the tomb. Pilates converses with Clavius about ambition, and Clavius desires power and position in Rome to have wealth to start his family in a place where there's peace, and a day without death. The following day, Clavius attends a funeral where the fallen comrades are burned on a stack of woods. Once again, Pilates summons Clavius, and concludes with a solution to burn Yahshua's body. However, Caiaphas and the rest of the Sanhedrin unexpectedly intervene, and says that God forbids cremation. Caiaphas visits them to raise a concern, and that's Yahshua's a threat to the Romans because he foretold everyone about his resurrection after 3 days. The reason for Caiaphas to seal the tomb with a boulder so no Yahshua's apostle can steal the body. Apparently, Clavius and Pilates don't want to meddle anymore. Still, Caiaphas points out that if the people and the Roman authority learn that a Messiah's body has disappeared and been resurrected, it can affect the peace and Caesar's vision they've been protecting. The only thing Caiaphas wants them to do is to stamp a Roman seal onto the boulder to keep the people away. Pilates eventually agrees, and sends Clavius to the tomb with soldiers in tail. After checking the intact body inside, they push the boulder, tie many ropes onto the boulder, and stamp a Roman seal onto the rope. Clavius assigns the two guards from the crucifixion yesterday to watch the tomb until tomorrow morning. However, their centurion has been unwell since yesterday, so they wish for a ration. Clavius then promises that he's going to send one and then leaves. Clavius then speaks with Joshua, who's also a Sanhedrin. He questions Joshua's grieving for Yahshua, who claims himself a king, while his brothers despise him. Joshua explains that Yahshua is special. It's night, and Clavius forgets to send food for the two guards watching the tomb. So, the two guards drink alcohol to battle their hunger. The following day, the sky erupts in a blinding light, brighter than the sun. Meanwhile, Pilates summons Clavius again to inform him that Yahshua's body disappeared from the tomb and the two guards are missing. Pilates angrily proclaims the death penalty onto the 2 guards before the Caiaphas and the rest of the Sanhedrin stop him, but it's too late, for they have already heard about it. Clavius offers to investigate the missing corpse, while Caiaphas reminds them that his hunch is true. He says that the 2 guards sought shelter from them because they knew the penalty. He also shares that the 2 guards found the apostles stole the body from the tomb. Caiaphas suggests sparing the guards' life as witnesses for the alleged crime done by the apostles. However, Pilates is concerned that words are not enough, and they need to find the body. So, Pilates tasks Clavius to track down Yahshua's body and his apostles. Clavius and his men arrive at the empty tomb. So, he summons Yahshua to ask what's happened, yet he has no idea where the body had gone when he arrived. Clavius then examines the ropes that appeared not cut, but burst, the melted wax seals, and the scattered alcohol leather bag on the ground. Meanwhile, Lucius calls for Clavius to show him the Yahshua's face stained on the white linen. Clavius asks Yahshua if the body is anointed, and Yahshua says they only wrap the body with myrrh and aloe because they've got no time. Clavius then assures Lucius that the stain's simply sweat and herbs. Clavius then orders Lucius to watch the tomb, search anyone who leaves Jerusalem, arrest anyone who speaks about Yahshua's resurrection to find out where they learned it, and dig every buried body in the last week to examine for crucifixion scars. Afterward, Clavius meets the assigned thin guard on the tomb for interrogation. According to the thin guard, there were about 8 to 10 rabid disciples who attacked them with weapons, stole his body, and bade them tell that he's risen. Clavius then asks if they saw them while asleep, and the thin guard replies that the cutting sound of ropes awoke them. The thin guard then resumes that they rolled back the boulder after they stole the body and ran. Clavius, pretending to accept whatever the guard's saying, asks if they watched them escape, and the thin guard stutters, but still replies that they were held at spear point. Clavius knows it's all lies and still asks if they are told to say this narrative. The guard denies this while his head looks down. Clavius then asks if they were drinking that night, and when the guard denies it again, Clavius shows him the alcohol leather bag they used last night. The guard leaves him alone since he has no words to say anymore. Meanwhile, Lucius overhears the beggar talking about the Romans fearing Yahshua's resurrection from the death, which is why the Romans lie about the stolen body. Upon letting the beggar finish his words, Lucius arrests the man. Once again, Clavius and Lucius check the corpses behind the crucifixion site and even dig up the Hebrew cemetery, but they find nothing. After the search, the 2 return to Clavius' home to interrogate the arrested people talking about Yahshua. First, it's Yahshua, who's also unknowledgeable of Yahshua's body location. He firmly believes that Yahshua's disciples are too heartbroken to steal the body. Yahshua adds that if Yahshua had lived, he would treat Clavius like a brother, despite that he slew him. Before Yahshua leaves, he reminds Clavius he asked whether Yahshua is a king on the tomb. So, he places the crown of thorns on Clavius's table and says, "Here's his crown." Second, it's a blind woman that they found shouting in the street, "The Messiah lives." The blind woman firmly believes she heard Yahshua's voice speak 2 days ago when he had risen. However, Clavius only orders her to stop spreading lies, but the blind woman is confident, and the only reason it's difficult to believe for Clavius has no faith in him. Clavius takes a break and prays to the God of Hebrews, Yahweh, asking him to abandon his followers he's seeking, and if done so, he offers himself of service to Yahweh. Last, he interrogates the beggar in the street. The beggar says, according to Magdalene, that they found the tomb already empty when they visited it early in the morning. Afterward, Clavius hires the beggar for more intel, and then he visits a boarding house rented for men. Apparently, every man inside knows Magdalene, and they point out where she works. Magdalene is none other than a repentant prostitute who became a follower of Yahshua. It's nighttime, and Clavius and his men surround Magdalene's usual place to visit. When Magdalene finally appears, guards chase after her. Even though she manages to evade the guards, Clavius still catches her. Back in his home, Clavius speaks with Magdalene, but nothing seems to make sense to him because Magdalene speaks about faith to an entity that he doesn't believe in. So, Lucius offers him to sleep first, which he does. He dreams about Yahshua hanging on the cross in the middle of the ocean. But his sleep is interrupted by Lucius, telling him that the Pilates summons him. Pilates summons Clavius to apprehend him for digging up the Hebrew cemetery. Because apparently, it's not his only problem, but the missing body and the dawning arrival of Emperor Caesar. So, Pilates urges Clavius to find Yahshua's body tonight. Afterward, Clavius tasks the beggar with looking for more of Yahshua's followers, leading him to Bartholomew, who cheerfully introduces himself. When they bring Bartholomew into his office, he says he's willing to be crucified. Yet, when Clavius reminds him of how painful the process since Bartholomew ran when Yahshua got crucified, Bartholomew stops him and says he heard enough. When Clavius asks where the other disciples' location is, Bartholomew says, "They're everywhere," and grins, happily leaving the office. Clavius continues searching for the body the following day, but they're already unrecognizable. Clavius then brings a body to Pilates and claims it can be a fake body to fool the people. However, it's evident that Pilates has already given up and tasks Clavius to another place, but Clavius insists on continuing the investigation. That night, Clavius meets Lucius, who informs him that the two guards have fled the town with the money. But Clavius manages to find the petite guard, who's a drunkard now and yearns for the truth. The petite guard reveals that he saw a blinding light so bright that he couldn't lay his eyes on it. The ropes burst out, the boulder flew away like a leaf, and a booming voice made them run away from the tomb so far until they obtained their sanity again. From the tomb, a figure unrecognizable appeared and disappeared quickly. However, despite the way the petite guard reminisces the moment, his eyes staring across the room, wondering if everything is ever absolute, Clavius sitting beside him, still finds the story skeptical. The following day, Clavius and his men raid a Jewish town, and among the houses, there's an abode where an unexplainable event flashes before him. Yahshua is alive, tangible, smiling, and among the odd apostles and Magdalene. He gazes at him for a second, but backs out, for he can't fathom the person he sees. Clavius hears Lucius offering help to search for them, but he orders him and the men to stand down and get back to camp. When Lucius leaves, Clavius re-enters the abode, staring at Yahshua. Magdalene touches Yahshua's shoulder, who disappears momentarily. The apostles call for his name, but shortly, a smile forms on their faces, for they are astounded by the miracle. Just then, Magdalene reminds them to travel to Galilee to meet Yahshua again. The apostles excitedly bid goodbye to her, and leave the place to start their journey, while Clavius remains silent and seated. That night, Lucius and Pilate raid the place where the apostles and Yahshua stood, but it's empty besides a signed letter from Clavius, saying to leave him alone for he can't reconcile his belief to what his eyes can see. The following day, Pilates believes Clavius betrayed him, so he sends Lucius and soldiers to find the apostles, and Clavius because Emperor Caesar is about to arrive in 10 days. Meanwhile, Clavius abandons Roman polytheism, and joins the apostles' journey to meet Yahshua in Galilee. At first, he distrusts them, wherein he injures Peter's legs when he's just bringing water. The cold night gives him no choice, but to join the campfire set by the apostles. They pray together and eat food. The following day, the venture continues, and Clavius asks how they can believe Yahshua. Still, even the apostles don't have an answer, for everyone is astounded too, and they also follow to find out the truth. Unfortunately, the Pilate's Roman search party reaches the town they're currently in. So, Clavius assists the apostles in avoiding the army, where they crawl on the grounds, hide in the bushes, and slide into the chasm to avoid exposure. While venturing into the chasm, the promoted Lucius' arm spots them. Yet, Clavius successfully disarms him and convinces him to let them pass peacefully because no one will die. Finally, Clavius and the apostles arrive in Galilee. However, the men are hungry, so they use the idling boat and fish in the sea. Yet, it's already nighttime, and they waste enough energy, but no fish comes. The following day, a hooded figure tells Simon to try to fish again, and when they do, the fish net is filled with more than they need. They celebrate for Yahshua is among them again. They welcome him with an embrace, and Clavius watches them from afar with a happy face. As they eat the fishes, Clavius asks Bartholomew what made them follow him when they doubted that Yahshua would rise from the dead. Coincidentally, a leper cast out by the people is beaten near their camp, and Yahshua approaches him with fish on hand. He kisses him on the forehead and lets him go. The leper leaves and his body is miraculously healed when he faces them. That night, Clavius can't sleep, and so he sits with Yahshua, who's still awake. He doesn't know what to ask, and rather he feels everything's surreal, for he saw Yahshua die, but there he is beside him. Clavius admits that it scares him to wage the unsureness of the existence of eternity, and the only thing Yahshua tells him is to know him. Yahshua asks what he seeks, and Clavius is surprised to hear him say that he wants peace and a day without death without even telling him anything. Clavius cries as he finally realizes the truth and peace he has sought since the beginning. The movie ends with the apostles and Clavius witnessing the ascension of Yahshua, where an intense beam of light strikes him and carries him to heaven. Afterward, Clavius and the apostles split up to continue their journey to share the good news of the Lord that heaven is waiting for them. Meanwhile, Clavius finishes his story with the house owner, saying that after everything he experienced, he will never be the same again. He then leaves the tribune ring as payment and continues his journey with hope. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this to help the channel out. Have a nice day.